left off at improper gaskets.
Improper what?
Improper gaskets and sealants can cause loss of preload.
No, I'm done. I moved on to. We're moving on. We're up to NDT, non-destructive testing. We're going to cover penetrant inspection. Is where we'll start. Well, we're going to start with an overview of non-destructive testing, and then we'll get into specifics of penetrant testing. Let me preface NDT with this is another one of those things where it's reasonably easy to understand. It's not difficult to do, but it's really, really easy to screw it up, get bad results, and hurt people and create problems. And I've seen it in the field so many times. People who should not be touching NDT stuff, just thinking, well, you know, I've had some AMP, I can do it, and doing it wrong. And so this really falls under the heading of things that you could do but probably shouldn't. Now, I will also tell you, and I think I've got some notes in here about this, you know, going back 20 years, longer than that, when I got in the field, it really was one of those things where it was kind of like, well, if you're an AMP and you want to do non-destructive testing, well, you can. And there was very few rules coming down from the FAA or manufacturers about who could do what. So what we had was kind of the Wild West of NDT, and anybody who could would. You know, anybody could go down to the store and buy a can of red dye, and some developer was out there doing NDT and getting really bad results and not doing it correctly, or buying a used Magnaflux machine or something like that, or you can get portable ones too, and just calling it good, right? And so I've noticed a hard progression with the FAA and manufacturers writing very specific things that. And I could point to specific service bulletins where it used to say, do the NDT, and now it's the NDT shall be done by somebody holding at least a level this or level that NDT certification. So they're very, very picky about it. So I would just caution you that if you have the opportunity to do NDT, don't unless you're actually qualified and certified to do it, or you will find yourself in some trouble. It's real easy to get in over your head on this stuff. So, and you guys are doing it now, right? Some of you?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's your opinion? Easy to do, right?
It's easy to mess up.
Real easy to screw up, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it is fun.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's a lot. I really enjoy it. I did a lot of it, of penetrant and magnetic particle. I am not skilled in ultrasound or eddy current methods at all. I'm not going to lie to you. That just wasn't what I did. I did PT and MT. And so those are where I am skilled. Yeah.
With the certificate, how do you get, are you able to get certain jobs because of the certificates, or is it like...
Okay, so first thing you have to understand is looking at the chart. If you want to be a level 1, that's the lowest level. That's a beginner. That is, you're qualified, I should use the words carefully. You are capable of turning on the machine and understanding what's about to happen, but you will work directly at all times under the experience and watchful eye of a level 2. And a level 2 will be monitored or at least there's oversight by a level 3. Right, but maybe not on site, and that's okay. But as a level 1, you pretty much have a level 2 on site looking over your shoulder. And so you can look right there. If you want to do PT, penetrant inspection, you need 16 hours of classroom time plus 130 hours of experience. Right, same with the magnetic particles, 16 hours of classroom, 130 hours of experience. That's just the level 1. Look at, for eddy current, 40 hours of classroom. Ultrasound, 40 hours of classroom. And that's a solid week of just classroom environment before you're capable of understanding the process. Then you're going to put another 400 hours before somebody says, okay, you're good enough to do some inspections while I stand on top of you and watch you do it. These are very complicated procedures. You're going to find out. I'm going to give you just a little taste of it, and you're like, oh crap. Just turning on the machine and trying to set it up for what you want to do is so far beyond what we can even do in this classroom because it's so complicated. So, and I'll get more into it in here at some point, very quickly. The difference between certification and qualification. So, NDT is a hard one to understand. It's not like the FAA, where the FAA has come out and said, okay, you're going to go to a school, you're going to take these classes, you're going to get to the end, then you're going to go take these 3 tests, you're going to take an oral practical, and you're going to get a card, and now you're that card. NDT is very different than that. There's outside agencies, they're going to train you, but then your actual card, if you will, that you don't really get, is issued by an employer. So, but you think, well, wait a minute, so if I started my own company and just said, hey, it's Kevin's NDT, could then I turn around and give everybody just a level 1 or 2 because I'm an employer now? No, I have to follow ASTM's guidelines and all these books and stuff, and then you have to have a program within your company that you adhere to these practices, and then if you adhere to these practices and you have a level 3 that is centrally certified, because the level 3 is they go and they take these tests at a central location, they have a central certification, then they're overseeing the program and their license is on the line, and they can turn around and go, okay, I'm monitoring the company's doing what they're supposed to, and you have 16 hours and classroom and 130 hours of experience. We can now certify you as being a level 1. But then you quit that job and you go work this other job, that level 3 could say, yeah, I don't count any of that. So it's a very bizarre thing.
Yeah, so I don't understand that. Why would they do it that way? If the job is the one that's training you and it's pointless from one job to the next, why are you getting a license?
I didn't say it's pointless.
Well, I mean, it kind of is. You went through 40 hours or 400 hours from one person. You go to a job, they sign you.
Yeah.
You leave the job, go somewhere else, and that's
that level 3.
Hours?
That level 3 could accept or reject your training. Now, what kind of fool would?
It doesn't make sense though. Why would the job take the liability of licensing you if they didn't train you?
They did. It's not a license. It's not like a driver's license or an AP license that you put in your pocket and carry with you everywhere you go. It stays with the employer while you're under that employer's watchful eye. You go to another employer, then they have their own program, which follows the guidelines set up by STM.
Would they put you through a test possibly?
Sure, yeah. Like if I was a level 3 working at a company and you came and said, look, I've been doing, I was over at DynCorp because they do NDT. I was doing wheels and brakes for, years, in liquid penetrant. I said, oh, that's fantastic. Well, let me just give you a little written test and do some practical projects and, you're good to go. So it's complicated. So what you can get out of this, if you're doing it, is you can get the certificate for 16 hours of classroom time. Now, in order to get the classroom time and for it to be counted, it has to be done under a level 3 or somebody who has the experience who a level 3 has said, I will back that certificate, right? So, a side thing, I was trying to get my level 3 this past year while we were doing COVID stuff, and I was ready to take the test, but unfortunately, they changed the requirements, and I had all my paperwork done and signed, and then when I went to resubmit it, they said, wait a minute, we've changed it just a little bit. And the little bit was, instead of having somebody from my past employer attest to my hours, they wanted, 1, the level 3 who oversaw you to attest, and 2, they needed the person who was your supervisor to attest. My level 3 died. So, I dead.
That's the end of that?
That's the end of that.
Damn.
That's just burps. So I called the level 3 who I do work with around here, who helped us purchase the equipment. He's done a little bit of training with me. Called him, and and he knows this stuff like the back. I mean, he's just so freaking smart. And I said, hey, here's the deal, this and that. He said, oh, Kevin, yeah, don't worry. He said, if you issued a certificate as a level 3, I would accept that certificate as being a worthy certificate. So there you go.
So you want the back and you just...
Yeah, so that is where you come in, so you'll be fine.
So you're like a level 2.5.
Sure.
0.75.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. All right, so we're going to talk about NDT, which is non-destructive testing, if you do it right. Also called, I call it NDT, also called NDE. NDE, non-destructive examination or evaluation. Or examination. Yeah.
So yesterday, whenever you were going over the dive pen, project, you said that since we did the dive pen, you couldn't do the other test and
Yeah.
made it invalid. Wouldn't that kind of be, in a sense, destructive because you can't perform a different type of test on it?
No, destructive really means you ruined it.
Oh.
It's like you broke it and then you looked at the metal, or, you know, it's like to take a bolt and then pull it until it actually breaks in half. You go, oh, those bolts, you pull them this many pounds and they'll break. You've destroyed the product. NDI is another, also called NDI, for non-destructive inspection. There are a lot of methods of NDT. The 10 major ones are 10 major. So there's more than that. And these are recognized actual non-destructive testing methods, and you can get certified in any one of these. So VT, which is visual testing, which is using your eyes and a flashlight. And there's a lot to learn about actually just using your eyes and the angle of light and all kinds of stuff. We're going to be doing PT, which is liquid penetrant. The proper name, because, and you'll hear me call it, or anybody in the industry, dye pen, fluorescent pen, Zyglo. Zyglo is a trade name. It's the company that makes the materials. And there's other companies that make it. Magnaflux also makes the materials. But in the industry, if somebody says Zyglo, which is kind of a older term, it means liquid fluorescent penetrant inspection. If they say Magnaflux, they mean magnetic particle inspection. But really, it's like saying, you know, well, I was going to say it's like calling all trucks Fords and all cars Chevys or something. It's just like, you know, in a way, it's even weirder. Yeah, if you really look at it that way, it's kind of weird. But yes, Kleenex, Band-Aid, MT, magnetic particle. Magnaflux. RT, radiographic testing. X-rays, basically. Let me see. UT, ultrasonic testing. Yeah, not UTI. Ultrasonic testing. We'll talk a little bit about that. What else do I got here? ET. Phono. Electromagnetic testing. Also called eddy current. BII, let's see. Got 10 of them to do. NRT. Neutron radiographic testing.
Do all these have specific areas or?
Insert. Yep.
Okay, so you can't like use them all on the same thing, or could you? Like on the same crack, or are they?
No, you wouldn't. You'd pick the best one and
Okay.
just go with that. That's also another form of X-ray, but it's different because you're using neutrons. Oh, let me tell you, when I was studying for that level 3 test, oh my God. I mean, it just gets into just absolute nuances between the difference of neutron radiographic testing and which isotopes you're using, and you had to memorize. I'm like, wow, I'm trying to get PT and MT. Why am I over here in this stuff? Thermal imaging, TIR, thermal infrared testing. Infrared testing. AE, I thought this one was kind of interesting to learn about. 1 before 10. AE, acoustic emission. Some of you guys do a little bit too much acoustic emissions. Let me think. And LT leak testing. LT. So what can I say about these? Okay, so I told you radiographic and neutron radiographic. That's X-rays. Ultrasonic. You're actually using ultrasound, just like, you know, when you guts the baby, you go and look. It's the exact same process where you're using piezoelectric and crystals, and they send out a pulse signal, and then it reflects back, and it.
When would you use that?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, this is a great one for finding voids inside of a container. But not so much for surface cracks, but subsurface flaws.
If your aircraft was struck by lightning, which one of those would you use?
Well, it depends on what you're looking for.
Like the pinhole cracks where it's leaving the body of the aircraft.
Probably eddy current. Thermal infrared, it's just what it sounds like, using thermal imaging. Acoustic emission, you're actually listening for, I think they use that in trains. So much of this stuff has nothing to do with aviation. It's really more about pipeline stuff. It's huge in pipelines and oil and gas industries. I think the example that I was watching in this class I took for the level 3 was they were using tank cars, rail tank cars, and they would pressurize them with water, and then you'd have acoustic sensors, and you would listen for the change in the material as it would expand out, and then you would pinpoint, you would triangulate based upon all these hydrophones where you were emitting some sort of noise, and you would pinpoint that noise, and you would inspect that area to see if there was a crack.
So in theory, you can hear a crack.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
Well, if it's a tank.
Yeah.
Leak testing, of course, is just, you know, hey, look, it's a leak. But, you know, it's a process. All right. NDT testing, qualification, and certification. Testing, qualification, and certification. Just because you can, doesn't mean you should. Words to live by in aviation. He's out. He's like, oh, screw it. All right, so make sure whenever you're doing NDT, because you're going to be exposed to it in the industry, and you're probably going to have a chance to do it, and somebody may ask you to do it. You got to make sure you have the right equipment. Right, equipment, instructions, and training on the part being tested. On the part being tested. Something I was going to say. Right. Oh, a lot of okay, so remember how I talked to you about the difference in the number 40 and the number 41 drill bit, and how all your textbooks tell you just use a 40, but then you go to 4313 and it just has this little reference of mil HDBK 5. Like, what the hell is that? So you go to this publication, which is really hard to find, and then you end up finding it, and then it's this whole engineering thing. Well, so much of NDT is done this way. They will just reference something. It's like, you must be certified, qualified, and do this particular inspection in accordance with ASTM E1444 Echo latest revision. You're like, huh, what? And so you want to find this thing they just referenced, this publication, and you find out that you have to go to ASTM to buy it. It's like $150 to buy this, 8-page document. And so what do?
You read a document.
Yeah, so you gotta spend $150 for this document. Then you get the document, and then it says, okay, so you're going to do this test in accordance with this thing, and oh, by the way, this says you must have the equipment. The equipment must be calibrated. You must use, I'm talking about like the magnetic particle machine, as I'm thinking of, because that's the 144 Echo. You must have a Ketos ring, and you must do the quality control checks on your bath, and then you must have the light meter, and then the light must put out this much wattage, and the room must be at this brightness, and you just kind of go on and on and on. This is using a pi gauge to do this test, or these little strips. Make sure you put it this way and run this many amps, and oh, by the way, you're going to need to double check it with the say Gauss meter, or not a Gauss meter, that's like the cheap version, but the that'll come to me in a minute, but it's like a Gauss meter, so you can measure the amount of magnetic particle magnetism being put out. You're like, oh my gosh, you're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment. And that's where people just kind of get to the point and go, yeah, I'm just going to do it. And that's, gets you in a lot of trouble. So you really have to have all of this stuff. And that's why I believe the FAA and all of their documents, and at the same time, manufacturers are really pushing hard to make sure that only the proper people are now involved in this, because too many mechanics just jumped in. I read an article once, it was so long ago, and it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek, kind of a jokey thing, but it wasn't. And it was all aimed at pilots. And the article talked about how pilots have this problem whereby we walk around with this thing where, for example, the bathroom floor needs to be retiled. I could do that, I'm a pilot. If I can fly an airplane, I can tile a fall. It's like, it was all about that. It's like how pilots screw everything up because they have this attitude of, if I can fly a plane, how hard is that? I didn't offend you, did I?
No, I think my phone's on my toolbox outside my truck.
Oh, you should go get that.
Yeah.
I won't say anything important while you're gone. I wasn't going to say anything important all night. Don't worry about it. So anyway, hope you get my point.
I noticed in the reference material for the NDT stuff in Canvas, it has a lot of references to like different publications.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so much. It was like, oh yeah, it should be in accordance with this, and that was kind of all there was for that segment. I'm like, okay, well, where's that?
Where's that? Well, hopefully I put them in there. Okay, so there are two words you have to know: qualified and certified. Those are two distinct things. They're very different. So, and this, I believe, is a quote right out of what they call it. Qualified is a written testimony of qualification. And I hate a definition that uses the same word. So qualification and qualified, same word to me. Written testimony of qualification. In other words, paperwork that proves you have the necessary classroom and experience. So I'm going to put it in my words. So paperwork that proves you have the necessary Find it?
Yeah.
What was it I said that suddenly made you realize you had to check your phone?
No, I thought I looked at my boyfriend's card.
This guy's boring me. Is there anything going on social media? Paperwork that proves you have the necessary classroom and experience. Certification is a certifying agency has issued a certificate.
That's the one we want.
Well, yes and no. Am I qualified or am I certified?
Oh,
Uh-uh.
You're not qualified yet.
Me.
you're qualified but not certified.
Correct. I am qualified, but I'm not certified. What makes me qualified?
That guy's backing you.
I have all of the, well, me personally. So if I wanted to go work at a company and they said, hey, we're looking to hire a level 2, I walk in and say, here's my resume. I am a level 2. What makes me level 2? Well, I have written testimony of qualification. I can have somebody who is going to attest to all of my hours of experience, and I have a certificate of training in the last 5 years of the 32 hours. So I could take that and say, I am qualified. I'm qualified. And then they would say, okay, we will hire you. You are now certified. So certification, a certifying agency,
Which is your employer.
yes, has issued a certificate. Who are the certifying agencies?
Your employer?
Most likely, the employer. But like I said, the employer just can't say, if I opened up a repair station, I can't just say after the repair station's open, guess what I'm going to do? I bought a Magnaflux machine. Now I'm an employer, and now I'm going to certify everybody.
You get a cert. You get a cert.
Yeah, everybody gets a cert. Yeah.
So why is it like that you only get certified from your job? Why wouldn't you have like this, you've been certified, you've been trained, this license? Like if I have my Department of Transportation license for my class, right?
And who issued
I didn't
it?
get it from there, I got it through the DMV, so it's good.
Who issued it?
Huh?
Who issued that?
Well, I guess it was the DMV.
Well, who's the
Actually,
DMV?
no, I got that from a doctor.
No.
They
Your.
issued me my thing, and then I gave them a copy of it to the.
What are we talking about? Your
DMV.
class.
Not my class A, my actual DOT card, my inspection that you have to go get.
Okay.
To be a class A driver.
Okay.
You have to go get
Okay.
DOT training, license, medical test. You wouldn't get that from your job. Like to be a driver at a certain job, you have to already have that.
That's a
you already
federal.
have to have that certification.
That's a federal thing. DOT is Department of Transportation. It's a federal agency.
FAA is federal. That's what I'm saying.
So the FAA is federal.
That's
Well,
what I don't get those.
okay, let's try.
Is
So
there any explanation as
the
to why?
yeah, let's try this. Okay. So the FAA is federal, DOT is federal. You have a driver's license to drive. State issued it. Okay, so ASNT, the American Society for Non-Destructive Testing, is a private organization. So they got together as a group of, I'm just going to kind of make things up, a group of guys and gals get together and say, listen, we've all been in the NDT field and we're doing this. We should make a professional organization that recognizes what we do and doesn't let other people mess up our industry. I'm trying to think of something else that's like this. Let me help me out. What's that? There are other things like that. I just can't think on top of my head. So they got together and they said, we're going to create this. We're going to create rules and laws and the way things should be done. And we're going to literally write the book. And it's an organization you can belong to or don't belong to. That's I did for a while. I think my thing just expired. And so what happens is that other agencies, like the FAA says, well, look at them, the ASNT. Those guys they wrote the book. They're the ones that go to employers and say, hey, we want you to follow our manual, and this is how you should do NDT, and this is how you should certify and qualify people. and all of that. And then the employer buys in and goes, we want to do that. We want to be part of ASNT. We want to do this right. The recognized group of people. Now, there really isn't any law that says you can go buy a Magnaflux or an ultrasound and just open up, your own Joe Blow's NDT house. You can do that. It's not illegal at all. As where it is illegal for you just to go work on airplanes, right? You can't, but you can go do all the NDT of the world you want to. There's nothing illegal about it. Now, somebody brings you, so I bring you a crankshaft out of my airplane, go, hey, I'm working on my airplane, I ran into something, test my crankshaft. You can legally do it with no training at all and hand it back to me and say, yeah, I tested it. I didn't find any cracks. Follow so far? Okay. Can you legally use it in an airplane? No, because now the FAA got involved, said, well, if you're going to have your crankshaft tested, we want it tested in accordance with ASNT standards, please. And you went outside of that. Hopefully that helped. It's trying to think of.
Drew up like the guidelines.
What's that?
They kind of like drew up guidelines.
They did. I was trying to think of some other professional organizations out there that do the same thing.
You usually think it would do the training and also give you the license.
Yeah.
It's just one thing I just don't understand. That's
Yeah.
all. It's got nothing to do with.
No, I mean, I get your question. He's asking,
Yeah.
why haven't they made like a license so that, say,
From
they can,
ASNT.
from the.
Why didn't they make a license you can go anywhere with?
Yeah.
Well, you didn't let me put number 2 up yet.
Oh, there you go.
Number 2.
It's actually number 3 in the middle.
Can also, but this is new. This is not something they have done for very long. Can also be a central, that's what they call it, ASNT, certification. Certification through ASNT.
Is that like you can work in a range, the
And
west
that's-
coast of California?
well,
United
let me
States
finish
kind of
this.
thing, or-
American Society for I just put NDT. I don't write the whole thing out. All right, this is really complicated. It's not. Don't freak out. And it's going to get even more complicated in just a minute. So they do have central certification now, where you could go to a branch of ASNT and you could say, when you test for level 3, that's what you're doing. As a level 3, you actually go to ASNT and you say, I want to be a level 3. Here's all my paperwork, my experience, and they scrutinize that and they test you. These incredibly difficult tests. And so you have to take a general test, if you will, and then a specific test for each one. So one general, then a specific for each one that you want to do. And when they do that, then you are certified. And it's not like us where it's like, okay, I've got my A&P card in my pocket and all I have to do is remember to work 6 months out of the last 2 years. And you have to recertify every 5 years. And you're recertified on points, how much work you did, how much training you did. It is really intense and expensive to keep that certificate up. Okay, now they started a new thing, it's new to me, where you can get the level 2. Level 1's not, I don't think they're doing that now, but you can go get at least another level 2 where you go and you test with them and you get the level 2. But here's the funny thing, you show up an employer and you say, look, I don't need you because I've already got my ASNT level 2. If it's not in their, we'll say, op specs to accept essential certification, you're right back to square one. But I go, okay, we can acknowledge your level 2-ness from ASNT, but it doesn't match we didn't write it in our book. We can use it as evidence to help certify you, but you still need their certification because their procedures do that.
It's like law enforcement. You can be law enforcement trained here, but you can't transfer it to somewhere else. You have to be trained in.
Okay.
Or forklift certification.
So,
It's the same way with the forklift, dude.
yeah, forklift certification. I should have just said that. Certification, and this is where it's going to get a little more complicated, is in accordance with one of the following. Great, so I just talked all about ASNT. Well, they have all different kinds of certification. And you got to love this, because when you go to NDT school, it's SNTTC 1A. And the goal of the instructor is to say this as fast as they can. And I can't do it, but SNTTC 1A. And you go, did you stutter? It's SNT-TC-1A. That's how they speak. It's their code, right? It's basically your ASNT. Again, it's the base. It's the basis for all certs. Oops. It's like the big one. Okay, but I don't even want, and you don't want to be certified under SNTTC 1A. What you want is NAS 410. Oh dear Lord.
Oh, no.
NAS 410, which is formerly a mill standard thing, is actually aerospace. And it takes more hours to get NAS 410. So if you were to go to an NDT class, there are many. I've been to Helier and I've used them quite a bit. So you call Helier and I say, okay, I want to get my level 2 recert. And they go, great, you want the SNT TC1A or you want the NAS? Well, I'm aerospace, I want NAS. I think it's, an extra 8 hours or something? And they just talk a little bit slower. It's the same curriculum. Like, so what's the difference in the curriculum, being a trucker? Well, there isn't. Let's just keep you here longer. Oh, thank you. Glad. There's CP 189, which is oil and gas. Well, it's ASNT. ASNT, oil and gas. Oil and gas lines. You can also get into the ISO stuff. ISO, International Organization for Standardization, ISO 9712. There's ACCP, which is the ASNT Central Cert. I'm almost done. And I think the last one I have on here is AWS, NDE, which is American Welding Society. So to kind of maybe add confusion, I don't know. So I want to be certified, and you would too, under the NAS 410 specs. If you were going to go get the central certification, go to ASNT and say, hey, I don't want to deal with an employer. I want you to give me my cert. They're going to follow under ACCP guidelines, the number 5 right there, give you your central cert. And each one of these publications is what you as an employer would follow to certify your employees. And so if you weren't following this, like for example, I opened up the repair station and I just said, I'm just going to just have non-destructive testing. Not dealing with ASNT. I'm not paying them money. They're not my business. Then when I look at publications in aviation or even NAS 410, which is going to spell out that you should be certified by one of these other things, and I go to test something and I pull up the service bulletin or the AD on it, which that's how the FAA is going to do it. Issue an AD. Hey, this propeller now has an AD, like 152, the propellers have an AD on it. You've got to do fluorescent penetrant inspection on the propellers, certain propellers. And you used to not say it, but now you look right on there and says, you will do this inspection in accordance with ASTM, this publication, and then you read that publication, and the next thing it says, oh, and by the way, you should be certified through NAS standards, and you're right off the rails just before you even got started. So that's why you have to follow all of this stuff.
So if you're like a level 2, and I know you say you can't just go out and open one if you're not certified, but if you have like a level 2 and you have a good relationship with a level 3, could you open up an NDT shop and say, Or is that not acceptable either?
Kind of. All right, so let's just use me for example. I want to open up an NDT shop to do aviation stuff. So could I do it? So I get all the equipment and I get set up and I say, well, where I used to work, I have all of the, scroll up here, I have all of the qualifications. Am I certified?
When you open your shop, you can be.
I can be, but in order to get that certification, I would have to have a level 3
Sure.
hired, complete all of the paperwork through SNTTC 1A, establish it, and then the level 3 could then say that I'm a level 2 again, give me my certifications, and then I would be okay. But you see, I just went through the whole process. It's the same thing.
You gotta hire somebody and then they give you a job.
It's 40 checks. You need a level 3 basically to open the shop.
You need a level 3.
Yeah, I got that in the beginning. It's all about the level 3.
There you go. So to make it very like this is the way it is, in a nutshell, employers set up their program based upon American Society for Non-Destructive Testing, ASNT. They use their guidelines, and they have a level 3 who then certifies everybody below.
Would it have to be NAS 410?
And they use NAS 410 standards in aerospace.
have one level 3.
You only need one level 3, and that level 3 maybe works for 10 different shops. It doesn't matter. It's okay. But you have to have a level 3 overseeing all of this. It's all spelled out in there. And by the way, you just can't show up for work and say, look, I would like to be an NDT tech, and the guy level 3 goes, hey, you seem like a good guy. I'll give you level 1. We'll start from there. You have to have the proper classroom training and then the field experience. And then they can say, and it's up to their program, but they're supposed to test you, give you a written test, and also a practical test before they just say you're level whatever. Yeah.
So if I went and got my level 3, say I went to this tech, got level 1, level 2, and then became a level 3.
Yeah.
And then I decided, hey, I want to make a school or be the person that goes to, like, say, airstrike firefighters.
Yep.
I want to certify the people that are there, starting them at level 1.
Yep.
And then make them to a level 2, and then have a level 3 eventually. Can I make them a level 3?
Yes.
Or they would have to go through.
Oh, they have to go through the ASNT
Okay, but I can
testing.
get them to a level 2, and then
Yep.
they can go take the next step to become a level 3 for
Yep.
their shop.
Yes.
Okay.
You can make level 3s, but most level 3s don't do that because
You're the guy.
you're the guy.
You're the guy.
Then they don't need you
But
anymore.
I would,
Take your job.
say like I would say go to airstrike, right? And then
Yeah.
I would go to a different other shop and like make level 1s and 2s,
Yes.
and then that would be they would pay me to make that.
Yes, and there are many level 3s that do that. That's what they do. They oversee a couple different shops, and they only want to see people get up that level 2. Because once you put a level 3 in the company, they can let you go.
Well,
So,
I mean, they paid me enough so that.
yeah. But you can't stop them either. If you have a level 2 with enough experience, they go to ASNT to get their level 3. You can't stop that
Right.
unless you don't sign that paperwork. And that'd just be me. Let me do this one. So aviation typically follows NAS 410. NAS 410. All right, levels. Now it gets easier. Levels. There's the level 1. And I'm just going to put lowest, because I don't want to write all this. The individual should be qualified to properly perform specific calibrations, because you're always calibrating the machines, specific NDT and specific evaluations for acceptance or rejection determinations according to written instructions, and to record the results. The NDT level 1 should receive the necessary instruction and supervision from a certified NDT level 2 or 3 individual. In other words, as a level 1, you will turn on the machines, you will do the morning calibrations, you will be given a specific job card on a specific item. You will turn on the machine, you will put this in it, and you will set the machine for level 5 and push the red button. And then interpret the results. And then you have a level, actually, to record the results. I don't even think you're supposed to interpret them at that point. You record the results. So it's very specific. You don't have a lateral, somebody brings you, you know, a crankshaft. You're like, well, let me think. That crankshaft is this big. It should be this many amps. It should be done both circular, longitudinal, and you don't get to make those determinations. You're told exactly what to do. A level 2, which is the next level, can make those determinations. So level 1, we have level 2. Level 2. And that's described as an individual should be qualified to set up and calibrate equipment and interpret and evaluate results. This one was, let me see, specific NDT and specific evaluations for acceptance or rejection determinations. So now as a 2, you're able to interpret and evaluate results with respect to applicable codes, standards, and specifications, meaning you're just given what the standard is and you get to figure out how to do it and did it meet the standard or did it not meet the standard. Because not everything is just pass or fail. It's not so black and white. You get indications. And let me tell you, once I moved back a little bit from more of the doing of NDT and more of the supervisor of NDT in our shop, I spent a lot of time in the booth. I had to evaluate all the indications. So it's real easy to do the job, but now you get this indication and you're like, well, shit, this is a $6,000 crankshaft and it's all on me. Do I accept it or put it in the trash? And you can't, you know, that's a tough decision to make. You have this very, very small, minor indication that is showing up. And now you have to evaluate that indication. Does that indication meet acceptance or rejection criteria? Because you're going to get indications. You get a lot of them. It's what you do with those indications where the experience comes in. Does it pass or does it fail? So right now you guys are doing aluminum pieces and we put cracks in them, and so your job is to find the crack. Now imagine, if you will, you've got a big crankcase and you just finished washing the crankcase and you've got indications all over it because, you know, it's going to seep out of stud holes. You're going to, you know, fingerprint on it and you got to deal with that. But then you get an indication over here and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? Is that good? Is it bad? Is it a crack? Did something drip on it? NDT is a little different, magnetic particle, because it's so easy to repeat the results just instantaneously. It's like you can do the test, you can look at it and go, that looks like a crack. Well, let's just wipe it off and just redo the process. You know, and I can do the process in about as long as it took me to say, let's redo the process. Just hit the button, put the juice on, and reevaluate. And it kind of indication kind of comes up. Like, well, that's kind of a weird place for an indication to be. Now what do I do with it? Keeps coming back. You know, you can't have a broken crankshaft. So there's a lot to it. Let's see. Where was I? I know it's almost breakdown. It's just, the NDT level 2 should be thoroughly familiar with the scope and limitations of the methods for which she is qualified and should exercise assigned responsibility for on-the-job training and guidance of trainees and NDT level 1 personnel. The NDT level 2 should be able to organize and report the results of the NDT tests. And then, before we get out of here, 1, 2, 3, they have the level 3. That's the highest. Well, I'm going to open up my own NDT. I'm going to make a level 4, so that'll be the highest. Individuals should be capable of developing, qualifying, and approving procedures. So now you're making up the procedures. You're the one that figures out what the test needs to be. How many amps, what type of penetrant you're going to use, what sort of developers, what is you can get an eddy current and how that's set up and everything else. So see, interpreting code, standards, specifications, procedures, as well as designing the particular method, techniques, or procedure to be used. The NDT level 3 should be responsible for the NDT operations for which is qualified and assigned and should be capable of interpreting and evaluating results in terms of existing codes, standards, and specifications. Because they aren't all crack bad, no crack good. It doesn't work that way. It's like you're allowed to have certain cracks in certain areas that meet a certain criteria, then that's passed. Or maybe this one has no cracks in that area. So it gets quite difficult in doing that. Let's see, sufficient practical background and applicable material, fabrication, and product technology to establish techniques to assist in establishing acceptance criteria when none are otherwise available. Let me tell you, the level 3 stuff, it is all about manufacturing. I learned about manufacturing, and I'm like, it drove me nuts. I mean, it is really all about taking how they take stuff from ore from the ground, and you have to learn all of that all the way through metallurgy and how they do it and the different ways that they produce something. And it's like
Level 3, you have to know that?
all of that.
Oh, wow.
All of that, all the way through all of the manufacturing. Yeah, it was killing me.
That's wild.
I was ready to take the test, but I was like, man, my brain is full.
Pathologist after that.
Yeah, and then you have to know all those 10 procedures. You have to know the basics on every one of them. When I say basics, that'd be great if it was basics, but let me tell you, when it got down to seriously, the nuances between neutron radiography and regular radiography, I'm like, come on, man. I was like, this is a lot. NDT level 3 should have general other appropriate NDT methods, and NDT 3, and then what is there? 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's it. So, and should be capable of training and examining NDT level 1 and 2 for certification in those methods. So, woo, okay, take a break.
Level 2 is just medium.